Welcome everyone. The topic for the discussion are the various incidents slash accidents, the various misadventures, mishappenings, which happens in a work life scenario. So basically, how to avoid certain things that come. So, what exactly is incident? We need to understand anything which is unexpected, anything which is not been unscheduled, which is not been even been planned. If such an event occurs, is known as an incident. But the occurrence can be a combinations of many factors to be factored in, which can be direct reasons, direct causes, and indirect reasons of thereby. So, result, what happens about it? The result happens is nothing but a damage, all are negative towards it. Damage to the property, damage to the life, a near misses, a loss, a combination of such effects that comes around it. This is what we need to understand. Any accident is always unplanned. Had it been a planned thing, it would not have been accident. It would have led to an homicide. It would have led to a criminal negligence. So please understand, accidents are only unplanned events which result in a mishap. Accidents are the result of failures, failures of the equipment, failures of the people, failures of the resources, failures about the environment to react. Absolutely, or to take proactive steps to prevent unfortunate accidents all the time. Now, every accidents have their consequences, have their outcomes, which are often, more often than not, negative in nature. So, prevention of incidents, how do we go about it? So, we will be talking about the prevention techniques in the subsequent slides, the number of things. Number one is the management and the workers should work in tandem with each other to prevent accident. Believe me or not, every accident is an impediment to productions, and anything which is halting your productions mean your profitability gets a hit. Top management essentially must leave. So occupancy, remember, occupancy is safety hazard policy that needs to be adhered to. Please understand OSH, occupancy safety hazard, occupational safety hazard is the way to go around it. So must have organization and resources to implement policies. What are they are the best available information, best available technology to prevent, to sensitize, to generate information prior to the any misadventures or mishappening to happen it. So please utilize technology. There are many technologies which helps to avoid a major accident, probably leakages that might be happening around it. It might lead to some kind of chemical disposition in the environment. Probably when we are looking at fast moving goods, fast moving trains colliding, or there should be an anti brake system and so on and so forth. So we need to talk about it. Is this SPI? SPI is serious personal injury, wherein you can be a loss of limb, a loss of an arm, a loss of an organ, a loss of one of your faculties, let's say your eyes, your vision, your hearing capacity. This is what happens with serious personal injuries. Dial emergency should be at the helm of your hand. The moment you extend your hand, you should be able to avail medical services. Now, that is what is to be treated in hospitality, in the casualty sections, has to be admitted properly. Definitely looked into it. Serious personal injuries is SPI. Please remember, this is a term that I've been utilizing it particularly in this particular presentation. Wound that requires stitches. Why stitches? Because things might have gone wrong. It might have opened up. It might have exposed your internal organs or probably your bones altogether. A fracture of your bones happens around it. What you go around it. People often, I believe, people often lose consciousness. They lose their consciousness just because of the anxiety that follows around it. Probably over the seriousness of injury, which might not be physical but completely psychological incident. So let us understand there are what happens. One of the worst thing that can happen is the eventualities of all accidents. The mother of all accidents is death. That is what is going to happen. People can get incapacitated, being hospitalized all for a month altogether, unable to work, probably might not be able to work at the optimum at any point of time. There are certain skirmishes also, which are known as minor injuries. An employee is injured, unable to work between a day, probably 2 or 100 hours, from 24 hours to 96 hours, or 4 days a session that we are looking into it. So basically, this might be done with the help of first aid. Paramedical services staff can actually heed to the requirements. So that is what we are looking into it. Attend the medical center, but is supposedly an emergency medical treatment. Example of minor injuries are minor cuts and bruises. What are the grazes that come here? So let us have an exposure, an event where an employee comes into contact with a certain substance of certain substance or certain circumstances that gets created, which is detrimental to the health or the safety of the person involved. This is what exposure is all about. It that the exposure that we're looking into it. So let us give an example. Number one is the radiation. My goodness, nobody is working in a nuclear plant probably, but then radiation is not only there in the nuclear plant. Even for cancer treatment, radiation are being utilized in your nearby hospital itself. So radiation are pretty much a threat. The hazardous substance that we are looking at about in terms of chemical substances, nobody hears, nobody mentions this, but this is one of the major pollutions which is happening on in and around us. It is the noise. There are many of the noise capital of the world are located in Asia and some in Africa. So please understand this thing. The noise capital, the decibel level is immense. It might not, you might get accustomed to the noise to a certain way, but believe me or not, your lifespan gets curtailed dramatically. Then there are something called biological agents or biological harms that comes around it, which probably must be exposing it to certain organs. So let us understand what are the dangerous occurrences. Believe me or not, people with SPIs will be incapacitated or commonly say near miss. People just must have gone lucky because of their fate, because of the stars, because of the blessing that they have gotten from the Almighty altogether. So that is the type of incident when we're looking into it. In cases of an accident, emergency evacuation is a must. Negligent discharge of anything, of any weapon, let's say an accident firing, let's say an accident injections of a wrong dosage altogether might be very much detrimental. Remember, the full factory, the full property can be damaged, people could be killed, and things might go haywire altogether. So these are the examples of dangerous occurrence that is happening in the corporate world on a daily basis. Now let me give you what are the direct causes. Believe me, I am mentioning direct causes, but I will never give indirect causes in my presentation, because indirect causes I cannot predict. Believe it or not, it cannot be predicted altogether. So there are certain things which is known as direct causes, which I'll definitely put it in front of you in this video. So the direct cause of an accident is immediate events or condition that causes an incident. Probably a human error, probably a machine error might lead to a direct incident altogether. Usually a result of unsafe practices, unsafe conditions, or a bit of both in terms of practices and the conditions. Direct causes are unsafe act. Remember, this is what directly impacts the health of the worker, the health of the staff, the health of the employee. May happen. It may happen to a person, to a group of person, to a full department, to a full people been exposed to a certain environment, environmental conditions. So these are the reasons for direct causes or so let us have the categories. What number one is substandard quality material that you have been utilizing it. As a result, probably the bridge that you were building it clumps down and comes down heavily. So the bridge is done because of the quality, substandard quality that you're looking into it. Operating without authority, you are not taking a proper permission or proper test whether there is a usual sustainability about the equipment, about the health of the equipment, and so on and so forth. So failure to warn is one of the major thing that comes around it. The substandard, unsafe conditions, inadequate guards, barriers that comes around, defective tool, material, equipment. which all relates to a direct causes of accident or any incident comes around it, that is needs to be understood altogether. So let us understand the definitions. The factors which leads to accident or incident do not directly cause accident. Are you want to say around it? Any factors, remember, the other factors that relates to the accident may not be directly causing the accident. Indirect causes can be physical, emotional conditions, probably the way you want to go around it. Again, this cannot be predicted. Indirect causes cannot be stated out in black and white. Where in direct causes you can find a cause. With direct causes there can be a prognosis, but there, and with indirect causes there can only be a diagnosis out there as far as the accident or incidents are concerned. So this is all about the work environment, the social condition that look here. So indirect causes could be that of inattentions, indifference, inadequate policies, inadequate leaderships, excessive work, fatigue sets in, and things which goes beyond the purview. So people might be overworked, people might be understaffed, people might be actually losing concentration, not being incentivized, or people might be simply put forward as frustrated, might actually lead to major incidents and so on and so forth. We come to the last part of this topic, as in what is the prevention cost about it. Now, there are requirements of prevention cost. Remember, we have the direct impact and the indirect impact. Indirect impact difficult to prevent, but probably the direct things can be prevented. How it will be prevented? By proper training of the employees. How it will be prevented? By having a regular maintenance of the equipments time and again. A regular, I said the word is regular, keeping them in a well-oiled machinery will have only smooth operation and defer any accident that might be lingering on because of the malfunctioning of the machines. So let us understand the design cost and install a machine guard. This is one thing which we go around it. And then we have the technology gives us a lot of parameters which says what is going on wrong with the machine. There might be a lot of indicators that comes around it which can help us to prevent an accident or an in a workplace. So talking about the operational cost, we need to have a training cost. Let us say this is personal protection equipment cost that we go around it. People will be actually doing it. During the pandemic, everybody came to know about what is PPE. It is personal protection equipment cost that has been incorporated. Occupational safety hazard training cost that needs to be imparted to all the individuals, be it they're working in the civil industry, be it they're working in the chemical industry, be it they're working in the medical industry. Everywhere you need to have occupational safety and hazard and as such. Costs that are used to make sure safety, in example, is health surveillances and audit altogether. This is what is important. Now we'll come to the prevention program as to what exactly can be done. So employer, the plant manager must take responsibility for involving each employee into the occupational safety hazard training part, and they should make it mandatory as a part of their job curriculum. They should establish an OSH policies out there. Until and unless you are convenient, you are absolutely familiar with the OSH policies, you will not be promoted or be assigned particular duties and responsibilities. So this will stimulate awareness within the safety and health about the employees. Remember, a competent person is always half the work done. It is 50% of the war has already been won against any unfortunate incident or accident. So fundamental bottom line remains to educate workers. This is what we are looking at it. If an educated worker is there, the chances of accident occurring becomes lesser and less. So, accident prevention program, what are they? So, basic activities must be carried out. What is it? The OSH program, occupational safety hazard promotionals, needs to be understood. The environmental awareness program needs to be sensitized among the employees, provide them trainings, provide them awareness program. And this should not be one-off basis. This should be a regular basis. Probably every 6 months onwards, you should have been exposed to a occupational and safety hazard analysis. We need to talk about the personal protection equipment. We need to go about it. We need to be sensitized about the housekeeping, cleanliness that prevents a lot of accident that goes around it. The safety inspection, the safety and so on and so forth. Yes, the ultimate talk would be training. Departmental training is a mandatory thing, should be given to every additional employee, and every new employee, definitely yes, he or she has to undergo the grind of OSH training, occupational safety hazard training. Hazard inherent in a job within the department is a must thing that needs to be protected against. Safeguard precautionary measures for those hazard, PPE required for the job instruction has to be there. Everybody needs to be sensitized, and believe it or not, these are not individual exercises, these are community, these are group exercises. A colleague should be sensitizing everything. If somebody has seen certain thing which is going wrong, which is flooring, plundering the rules of the game, please understand the person who have watched it, seen it, becomes a responsible for the accident if he or she doesn't sensitize or rectifies the equipment first place. So type of training is what we are looking into it. We are looking at housekeeping training. We are looking at personal protection equipment training. We are looking at health safety training about it. These three trainings has to be gone in tandem, and every 6 months, I suppose, one of the training should be repeated. One of them. So approximately in 18 months, every person would be exposed to all the three training. So personal protection equipment training, housekeeping training, and OSHR, occupational safety and hazard, which needs to be done. So talking about the safety training goes around it. We need to speak what is absolutely available out there. A new employee must be given the orientation for the company OSH rules. A new employee, it's a must for him to undergo the grind. The employee's responsibilities, it is not only the employee's responsibility, it is the supervisor responsibility, it is the functional head responsibility to mandatory make that new person undergo the OSS training, make them available all the PPE kits that is required, the personal protection equipment kit that is required for a job to be carried on. In case if it is a civil job, you have to have a boots, you have to have the helmets. If it is a medical job, you have to have the similar protection so that there are no pilferages of bacteria and viruses that can be infected. So you need to take proper precaution. Location of the medical first facilities should be educated to each one of them. What about the fire exit that we look around it? The procedures for reporting a job related injuries, a job hazard, a defection, an unsafe equipment condition should be mandatory made it promised to every individual and shown what is the right method, right path to go about it. This is what all of safety trainings are needed for whom? For the newly hired employees. Training are needed when people have been reassigned to different jobs altogether, or they have come after a long holidays, a long layoff, or there are certain things for which employees are rejoining the organization. So we need to have them trained, well groomed, well versed with the OSH practices, the PPE kit training, the housekeeping training. When the new equipment and the processes are introduced, are installed, when need arises to improve, definitive safe practices, safe procedures has to be adhered to. That is what training is all about it. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video.